Hello and welcome to From Google Forms and Microsoft Forms to Excel. My name is Jennifer S. Lewis, COE, and today I'm here to present to you on how you can optimize the collection and use of your data using these software applications. So let's get started. Today we're going to go over quickly how to gather data using forms, both Google and Microsoft, how to import data into Excel, organize data in tables, I will give you a shortcut, create pivot charts, create graphical charts, and import Excel data into PowerPoint, as well as creating some interactive forms in PowerPoint. So let's get started with creating a form. So the first thing you have to know is whether you're going to Google Forms or Microsoft Forms, you have to log into each of the programs. So you must have a Google account to get into Google Forms, and you must have a Microsoft account to get into Microsoft Forms. So let's get started. I'm going to open Google Forms in Chrome because that is the preferred browser, and we're going to set up two screens, see if we can defeat and open two of them so we can do this simultaneously for a comparison contrast approach. Doesn't really like that. So we're going to open a Firefox for the Microsoft form. Microsoft does not prefer Google Chrome, but Google Forms does. So we're going to do it side-by-side comparison. So right here we're going to put in Google Forms, and right here we're going to put in Microsoft Forms. I think this will allow us to easily see the differences. So you want to hit continue. We're going to log in with your email address that you use for Google. Again, you must have an email address for that. And you have to put in your password once you have it saved. And I'm bad because I wanted to show password. I always get it typed wrong the first time. I don't know who else has that problem, but I think it happens to a lot of us. Okay, so we've got that running. We're going to click on Microsoft Forms. It's going to automatically log me in if I'm lucky. Okay, so look at the difference between the interfaces. So you see on the left, you see the forms. It's a blank form. There's a template gallery. So look at all those templates. I want to especially bring your attention to this exit ticket, which I thought was interesting. Go back out of the template gallery. You also have forms by other people. If you're using Google Forms as part of your organization, then you'll be able to see their forms. Since I'm using this as an isolated installation for myself only, and I only see my own forms. Over on this side, you see that I'm seeing all the forms I previously made, just like on this. Instead of seeing this blank, we have this new quiz, or we have new form. You see here all the ones that I've created. And then you see some groups I have access to that also have forms. So I could use their forms. But there's no templates per se. So there, you're going to create a new form by clicking on New Form. It's going to take a second. And then on here, we're just going to create a blank form. See, the Microsoft is taking a little bit longer to load, so we're going to get started here with our Google form. We're going to put on here student scholarship information. Okay, so we've got the student scholarship information up there. So Forms is still having some trouble loading. We're going to go ahead and put our first question in. Automatically, you see there is a list of question types, and I'm going to give you a hint. Don't put anything in, just type a question. It may actually bring up the right type. So let's type in, please enter your name. So it's set up for keywords. So what's happened here is automatically decide you're going to use a short answer. It has decide is required. You could not make it required. The other thing you could do is add a description. We need this information to collect visualized data. Okay, so you just collect a little bit of information there. You can also put a response validation, and I'll show you why that would be important. So let's go ahead and add, move me over here. So the toolbar is over here since I've made it smaller, so I'm going to click here. And then I'm going to add another question. Please provide your email address. So it's also a short answer. And then I'm going to use the response validation to pick text and to pick email. Okay. Now there is an option to add pictures. And so I'm going to go search for some pictures. You can upload them, use them for a camera, add a website address, photos, and Google Drive. And I'm going to go in here and put in email. And just remember that I was already asking for their email at the top, so please provide your personal email address. It's automatically going to give us the one that you logged in here with, which might not be the one. Actually, let's change it to preferred email address. Okay. Now, again, this image can be decreased in size. And so to do that, we just want to grab the little handles and make it smaller. Click out of it, and you can change it, center it. And that's really all you can do is change the alignment, change it or remove it. You can add a caption by your email for ongoing engagement. So you see that's pretty helpful. Now, I want to go over this import questions. There's a variety of question types, but instead of creating each of them in the interest of time, I've created them in another form. So once you select your other form, you hit select. It shows you the questions that you could add. So let's add the other types. Paragraph. I've already got that one. Drop down. Okay, well, it doesn't like that. Move it over a second. Drop down, check boxes. Let us know how providing your services, multiple choice grid, date and time. Okay, so we're going to import those 7 questions. They automatically import. And this will allow me to illustrate the other options. So you can see this is a drop-down list. All you do is enter your options. And it actually looks quite different. Click on here and go to the preview on the corner. It opens a new tab, which is not what happens in Microsoft Forms. Microsoft Forms, which is still not loaded, is having some issues today. There we go. Microsoft Forms is a little bit different in that it opens in the same tab and you have to hit back, so that's an important difference. So let's catch this guy up. Student scholarship information, and then description. Information needed from each scholarship recipient. Okay, I'm going to add a new question. There are the options for the question types here. So it's the same types, multiple choice, text, and it will allow you to have multiple answers on your multiple choice. Rating, you can rate it from 1 to 5. You can put a date field. You can put a rating scale. You can also upload files, and you can also create new sections. So let's do a little bit of everything. Choice, which indicate or college. Okay, and it does not have any of those features in terms of changing the answers, so we're just going to type in what we need. I'm going to only put a couple answers in here to facilitate this. Now you see there's our question. We can add text. Please enter your name. Now we realize that this is kind of out of order. You can move the questions around this way. Now in Google Forms, let's go back to our original one. You can move the questions up and down. And this one you have to use the little arrows. So that's a distinct difference. Again, if we were trying to preview, oops. It did not save it. Did you see that? That's important. Oh wait, here it is. It did save it. Okay, both of them save it pretty quickly, so keep that in mind. Sometimes I've had troubles on the Microsoft side, but the Google Forms has always been consistent, so I get scared a little bit. So right here we were putting in. So what I wanted to show you is the preview is different. It does not open in a separate tab. It opens in the same one. You have to hit back. But it does show you how to view it on a computer and a phone. And I think that's probably the most important thing of this particular piece. So let's get back over here and add some more questions. So we're going to add some questions. I'm going to move me over a little bit. Maybe put me right here in the middle. And we're going to do a rating. Rate the level of service you have received from the scholarship office. Okay, so we're going to go 5 stars. And that's all we're going to do. Now we could insert some media, which we didn't talk about really over there except for an image. So let's insert an image over here, just to be fair, and put scholarship and see what we get. Okay, so we can insert that. What I like about this is it inserts the image next to it. It is a little bit slow, you'll see, and it proportions it to that same box. Whereas if I add an image over here, you'll see that it's going to go when it wakes up. It did it, but it did it slow. Should go here. Something went wrong. Try again. So I guess running them at the same time may not be ideal. But what it does is it puts the image below. Let me close out of this one and see. There we go. Okay, so it finally worked. You see it is below, and again, you can adjust the sizing, and then click out and adjust the alignment. But again, it only lets you do images right there. Okay, so it's not letting you load media, it's loading images only. So we've done the Likert scale. Let's do our multiple choice here so you can see that. And you can have multiple answers. Are you interested in the following? Are you interested in participating in a study group? At all, and I'll delete maybe, so it automatically populated those. You don't want multiple answers, but if you was something that you asked a different type of question, you might want multiple answers, or which of the following are you interested in? Click them all. So that would be something, but this was very specific. Date, it's very simple. When did you first receive services from this office? And they'll enter a date. You can require it again, just like in the other one. You can add branching. Now I'm going to go over this here with this question. So I'm going to add another question. What time would you be available to meet for Zoom sessions? Okay. What was it? After 12 p.m. From 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. After 5:30 p.m. Okay. So those are our two choices. Now what we're going to do is use branching over here. Only the people that are actually going to answer yes need to receive the next question. So if you answer yes, you'll go to what time would you be available to meet. If you answer no, you'll go to question 6, when did you receive services? So let's go back and let's go to preview and see how that works. So if I say yes, the next question is when are you available? If I say no, then I'm talking about the services. So we tested that away. So now we have tested our date. Let's test our ranking, which is a little bit different. This is the Likert scale. How likely are you to... Hold on, I'm going to delete this for a second. The important thing about this to note is you cannot change the question types once you've selected them. So there we go. Make sure it didn't work. Okay, so rate our specific services on the scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best. So our specific services would be speech tutoring, writing, tutoring, and add the statement, mentorship. Okay. You can add levels to this too. Let's see, so four, no, I guess it'll be four, oops. And it starts to give you the next one. So fair, very good, excellent, average. So let's change it. It will not let us change it. Okay, so I was trying to drag them over, but it's not quite that intuitive. So we're going to get rid of that column. And that is our rating system. So there you see that type of question. Again, you can choose whether it's required or not. So then we have our last type, and it's a file upload. You'll go here. You will check in here what you would like. Upload your resume. Okay. You can set a limit on the number of files as well as the size and whether you're requiring it or not. We have the same thing going on here. We're going to add that type of question here. It's in the process of saving, so it's having some issues. So we're going to refresh it. It's a little bit clunky right now. Okay, so it's entering the questions at the top, so keep that in mind. So what we're going to do next is we're going to change this type to file upload. And again, it does the same exact thing. So from a comparison standpoint, it does allow you to control those things. One thing I like about this is you can open the folder and it shows you where on your OneDrive the folder will be, or your My Drive the folder will be set up, where all this data will be collected, all the uploads. So it makes it easier to understand, and you can specify file types. So if you don't want drawings for a resume, you definitely could set that up and require it, and add description. Next week. Okay. So there you see we've got all the options here. Oh, it finally created all those questions. It must have been having a very bad delay. So if we wanted to get rid of those questions, we'll just go to the bottom and get rid of them because we have a lot of blank questions. Be careful because it's just a bunch of them that were added in between here that we couldn't quite see. So we got rid of all those. Okay, so we have our file upload, we have our multiple choice, we have our similar ratings, we have our dates and our times. This one, though, didn't have a time, so I want to note that. Now the next thing they both have is a section. So right here is the section in Google Forms, and right here is the section in Microsoft Forms. What this is to basically go to another page. And when you add the section in, it sets it up so that you can title it. So you can title it demographics. So let's call it demographics. Now these questions don't make sense here, so you can drag them up and just drag them away so you could sort them later and move all them up there. So again, dragging, pretty easy. And you can move everything away that didn't belong in that section until you get a clean section. You have to get the crosshairs to be able to drag it though. So just carefully do that. And then you can add a new question. And it's being pretty persnickety, as you can see. You can drag it back down. Please advise please advise your state of residence. And it's not, it's going multiple choice. Short answer. And let them pull it in. You could definitely make it a multiple choice if you wanted to add those options. Again, here you're going to name this section. Let's also call it demographics. Here you can add images or video. Now adding video here is a little bit different. So if I add an image, I just want to highlight that it's going to be separate, and below, if you add an image of college students, it's below everything. It's not part of everything else, but it could be something that you put right under or above the section. There you go, and then you could kind of explain it. And then of course you can add videos. Let's say study skills. And when you add the study skills, you just select it, insert it, or you can get the video URL. Please watch this video for our informational session on September 1st. So there you go. And if you want to do another video, do the same thing. Just duplicate that. Here, you can add a whole design to this. So again, you can go to image, or let's add a video here. And again, you're just going to search for study skills. And it wants the video URL. So because it's doing it this way, you'll have to open another tab and go to YouTube and go to study skills. And we're going to go to here. And then we're going to go to your share option. After we skip the ad and we stop this playing, we're going to go to your share option and copy that code. We're able to paste that code here, add, and then it adds the video there. So see again, what I like about this one is it added it closer to what our title was, so it kind of looks a little bit better. But that's just my personal preference. Now, each of them do have themes, so let's get started with the themes. I'm going to move me over down here and out of the way. Themes in Google Forms are here. You can choose an image. It will be one of your images or photos or uploads that you already have. So you could upload an image or save it from the web and then find it here. In the interest of time, I'm just going to pick one. It automatically picks some colors, but you can definitely change those. And there's two font styles I would recommend using, either basic or formal. So I'm going to use formal and hit apply. And so you see it looks pretty nice. Has a little book on the top. It already looks a lot better. Okay. So here themes are a lot nicer, as you can see. So there's the theme for that, or the theme. This one's a little bit nicer. You can also, that's better. You can also go down here and use plain colors. Add some of these little graphic ones. You can also go ahead and customize by going to the web and adding an image as your theme. It'll try to stretch it. It may or may not look good, so just keep that in mind. And then you can also go back and find the hex code. So if you need the hex code, just go to Google and put in hex codes HTML. And when you put in hex codes HTML, it will bring you to a site, and you just click on this. And when you get to the right color, let's get that out of the way and scroll down a little bit. Here is the code. It's the one with the pound sign. You paste it in here. There you go. It adds that. So that is how you put it in themes. Do want to look at some settings here. So this one collects emails, so you do want that. It response receipts, so it's going to send a receipt to the respondent to let them know that they have sent something in. You can always have it, or only if they request it. You can limit it to one I wouldn't think you'd get duplicates, but I have gotten duplicates for things that didn't necessarily make sense. So you may want to just click that. It also prevents any voting issues or ballot stuffing issues with people voting more than once. I have never clicked edit after submit. That's up to you. And then the see summary charts and text responses, same thing. Okay, so those are your setting options there. It also allows you to use a progress bar. I don't use a progress bar. It may be something that you want them to be able to do. There's a school of thought on either. It might be that it encourages them to finish, or it might deter them. Shuffling question orders is really for a test. This wouldn't apply here. You can set a confirmation number. Thank you for your timely submission. See you on September 1st. So that would be something excellent to add. If you are putting in a quiz, there are a variety of options there, and you can just investigate those at a later time. Don't forget to hit save here. And so those are your settings there. Settings here. This is important because of the fact that Google assumes that you'll get a Google account if you want to access Google Forms. But anybody could respond. However, here you're going to have to set it to only people in my organization or anyone. But you see, anyone is blocked out. So I want to highlight that if you use file uploads in Microsoft Forms, you cannot have anyone respond. It can only be someone from your organization. So it kind of limits your functionality. You can steer this toward people, specific people in your organization, etc. But honestly, usually I put anyone, so I'll have to remember that you cannot use that option if file upload is used. You will set it to accept responses. If you turn it off, you will not get any responses. I do want to highlight that in Google Forms, right here is where you set responses. So it's very different. It's not in the settings there. Start date and end date are possible here. This does not have that option. I'm going to show you an add-on that will allow you to add that, but right now you can't do that anywhere. It does have shuffle questions and show progress bar, as well as customize your thank you message. Allowing receipts and getting email notification on each response, I always do that. And I allow them to get responses after submission as well. Okay, so those are our settings for each of those. I do want to highlight these ellipses have a lot of information, including how to print. You can add collaborators here under the ellipses and set what they can do, specific people, or you can get a link. But I want to highlight that if you're adding collaborators here, it's going to be under the share setting, get a link, and copy. So it's a little bit different, each of them. So it's a little bit of adjustment to think. It's just a little bit different. Here you can add a person. I'm going to add my daughter. It allows me to send them a message, definitely notify them. It's more work to do anything else. And then you can just send it. They're automatically editor. That's why you're collaborating with them. Or you could get a link and you could create an independent email outside the system, let's say an Outlook. So the other setting is print, and there it is. And there's also preferences. And this is the collect emails and make questions required. So I would definitely set that up. I don't use the default quiz point value. I would set the points in the actual form. So we'll go back over here to these ellipses, and I want to show you that print is here. I also want to show you that you can provide feedback to Microsoft about whatever your issues are with their program. Just click on there and give them some feedback. Multilingual. I like this. I haven't seen what the result is, but I like the concept. So adding in a language, you can add in Spanish. And then it will add a language to it. Now the functionality of watching that in operation would be unique, so we'll have to see if maybe we can see that when we go in preview. Let's check it out and see. Oh, here we go. So once we're in English, we will be able, as the Spanish recipient, to click on that, and everything is changed into Spanish. So it's excellent in terms of the instructions. It does not seem to work in the rest of the form. So okay, so everything that we're inputting is not in the right language. It's only what they've set up. So it's not really that useful in theory, it should work a lot better, so that might be some good feedback to give them. So let's go back to the form, and let's click on that feedback, and here, I don't like something. And if it would let us click on it, we could let them know. There we go. Include screenshot. The translation does not translate what I type into my form. So that's good to let them know. You can contact me about this feedback. Okay, and then it just says, we appreciate it. Okay, so it's only partially useful. So at this point, I wouldn't even spend any time with that. The next thing that we're going to do is share. So let's go, and it's send on forms. So here you can share it via email, a link, or embedded code, so it opens up in a frame. But again, because we use the file upload, there are horrible limitations. You cannot embed this, because I guess it wouldn't know where to send it because it can't be embedded so it can get to your iDrive. So that's interesting to know. You can also share it on Facebook and Twitter. And please, please shorten your URLs. There's nothing more annoying than a humongously long URL. And you can copy those and send those via another system, or you can use that template here to add in emails. You see right here, include form in the mail. It won't let you do it because we used a file upload. And then you could just hit send. So on this end, if we hit share, we can also send a link, get a link, shorten it please, copy the link, we can email it, and it will try to open an email, so you can see, and pre-populate a lot. I'm going to close it out because we're not going to send it. You have the embed code. It is not saying that you cannot embed it. So that's a little bit of a benefit from using this versus the other. And if you want to make signs, you can definitely use a QR code. You can download that and put down a sign. People can scan it and get straight to your survey. You can also share this as a template. So if someone else is going to build a scholarship form and your form is really successful, say, hey, let me send you this link. You copy it and say, friend, let me send you this link, and now you can use my form and edit it freely as a template. And again, the collaboration piece is at the bottom. Okay. The next thing that we want to talk about are responses. So we're going to click on responses. Both of them are labeled responses. Again, this right here is the accepting or not accepting, or basically turned on or off to receive data. Here's where you would click to get your new spreadsheet. It will be in comma separated value or CSV, so you can use it in Excel or Google Sheets. You can also put it into an existing spreadsheet. I have not used it that way though. And you just hit create. Now on the other end of this, if we go to these responses, we just open in Excel, and it will open in Excel. Since there's no responses, it's grayed out, we cannot get to it, and it gives us a message. So let's put in some answers so that we can see what this will look like. Let's close this out. Let's go back, preview it, and we're just going to put in some answers so that we can get that far. And that brings me to another thing that we want to distinguish between both of these. There is an immersive reader for accessibility on the Microsoft form. So if you
student scholarship information,
it will read you the entire form.
Information needed from each scholarship.
So that is a very excellent feature to make sure that everyone can use your form. And we're just going to put in some data. And there we go. And then say we just learned about them, average, fair, fair, and there we go. And then we'll upload a resume. Just go to OneDrive. Just go find my resume. What I found is that this does not work that great. So let's try this. Nope. So we're just going to upload a document. It really doesn't matter. If I had a resume, I would definitely upload it. Finding it is not time effective, so we're just going to put that in there next. Watch the video, and say send me an email receipt of my responses. Hit submit. Okay, now we have a response. We'll hit back. And now we have a response. It shows my one response, the average time to complete, that the form is active. It allows me to open in Excel. And it gives me some charts. so I have a visual landscape. So if we wanted to open Excel, it opens right there with the name of the form as the name of the file. And it's already made into a table, so you don't even have to make it into a table. So if you had enough data, you could definitely go ahead and do more with it, but you see you have to hit enable editing or you can't use it. Once you do that, you can insert a pivot table, which we're going to talk about in a little while. Always do that in new worksheet. And then you can put on your email name, and you can count how many names you have. And then as you populate more data, this will become more useful. Obviously with isolated responses, you're not going to get that much. Now this one, we're going to go in here into preview so we can test this. We're going to put an email address in. Very good. Put all those options in. We're going to leave that email address. We're going to put theater. We're going to rate it. We're going to give a date. There it goes. Has a little bit of delay there on that calendar. We put 5 hours. I'm going to upload a file. And this one, it automatically selected my resume because it's a little bit more intuitive, as you can see. And then I'm going to hit next. And I've missed something. Oh, there it is. Okay, it knows that I missed something, so it won't let me click on next. Then I'm going to look at this. Pretend I looked at the video. I'm going to say North Carolina, even though I'm Mississippi. I want them to send my responses, submit. This is the thing I hate on this one, to find the traffic lights. And they're all everywhere. So there we go. Now it will send it. It's slowly sending it. Now we're going to go back over here, and now you have your one response. And again, you've got some charts. Once you have a lot of data, you'll be able to really get some value out of this. And again, there's your view folder. The one thing I wanted to talk about in Forms that's not in Microsoft Forms is this add-on. Let's see if we can find it. There we go. Add-ons. I'm going to make Forms big so you can see it because I think that will illustrate this better. Okay, so there is the add-on button. We're going to put Form Publisher Getting Started. What this creates is 2 data files for you. You can make a Google document which will have all your responses one by one in a document, and you can also select to have that sent to you as a PDF. So then if you are collecting data in Excel, you won't have to worry about pulling it out yourself and making it into a Word document. This is entirely free. It's called Form Publisher. Again, you'll have to download it from the Chrome Google Store. It takes a little while to function, but it does work. And I just leave the defaults checked. And once it finishes up right there, it slowly but surely will produce information. And there's a lot of other add-ons you can try. Don't be afraid to try an add-on. I usually try them. Sometimes it won't say that it's free or not free, so beware of that. There you go. Now it's got that. I always check Keep PDF Copy in OneDrive and hit Next. It automatically creates a Form Publisher folder, so you don't have to mess with that unless you wanted to move it somewhere else, but I segregate this data. So once it finishes, you'll see that it will allow me to click into the Form Publisher folder, and it's going to create a document for Word doc, Google Doc, and a PDF each time a response is submitted. You can also send the PDF to a particular person and notify of his form response. So you can email myself at jennifer.lewis@USM, even though I'm picking these up off my Google Mail. And you could also use an approval workflow. I have not used this in this, but it may be a good way of doing it, especially because that approval flow is usually more complex and does require payment in other applications. So if this is offering it free, it would definitely be something that you would want to test. If it works, it'd be a great time and money saver. I know we're always looking for approval flow software, and it is never inexpensive. But we are a Microsoft shop rather than a Google shop. It says your form is ready. So now to see the form in action, we have to go back to, see when I click right there, it names your Google form with the name of the survey from the first line, the title you put in, even though you didn't type it over there. So I'm going to go back to my questions. Then I'm going to go back to preview so I can, it says you can only fill out this form once. So we'd have to uncheck that. So we'll have to fix that to be able to uncheck that limit to 1 response box and try again. We're going to refresh it, and then we're going to put this information in very quickly so you can just see how quickly it outputs information. And quickly check some boxes, and I'm adding a date, and I'm putting in some hours, and I'm uploading my resume. Selecting that, and I'm hitting next. And after I hit next, I watch the video, and I'm going to type in Mississippi this time, and then send me a copy. Submit. Okay, so here it goes. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to wait. Now it says your form is ready, so I'm going to go to my form in Drive. So it's going to open that folder in a second. Sometimes, there it is, it's a little bit of delay. So there, it's producing the folder, so you'll have to wait a second for it to do that. And once it produces it, you'll be able to see both a Google Doc and a PDF with that same data. But you have to give it a sec because it does take a sec to produce all that. There it goes. So once you click on it, I'm going to open it so you can kind of see it. And there you go. You see all the information, and it's already in one place. And it does have a link to where the resume is stored on your My Drive. And that's very, very helpful. Same thing with the PDF. You'll see the same information. It's just in the PDF format. So that's the one add-on I would recommend. And then the other one is for setting the limit when the form stops and starts. That's the only option I use. Date and time tells you when the form is going to end. And then you can put a little message in there and then save and enable. So again, these are available on the store, and if you just Google Chrome add-ons, it'll take you to the Chrome web store, and that's where those add-ons are located. Okay, so now we've gotten that information. Let's work on our Excel data. So I've given you some sample data. There it is. I'm going to open the data here on my end. And I'm going to show you what I've done with it. So this is the employee information that I've created. What I would recommend doing, the first thing is go ahead and hit Alt, the N key, and the T key independently. It will automatically create a table with headers that you already had in there. If you don't have headers, it will use the first line of data, so always make sure you have an empty line so you could fill those in if you don't already have them. So that's important. So once you have a table, the next thing you do is create a pivot table. So I always create these in new worksheet, so don't forget, new worksheet. Once you have the pivot table, I like to do name and spouse, let's say, and then I always count so I know how many I have. So I have 39 pieces of data. Now this isn't that helpful. What I like to do with this data is much more interesting. I click on it and I go into Insert Slicers. Then I click on all of it. So I have the facility to use all of my data. And here I go. Here's all this data. Now I'm going to cut all these guys out. Oops. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, just hit your Shift key and highlight these by clicking on them, because I'm going to have you move them to what is called a dashboard. So we click on them, we create a new tab, paste them all in, unclick over here, and then start moving them where you would like them to be. They are all interactive. So when you click on the first level, which is the name, or you click on any piece of data, it's tied to the other pieces of data, so it's almost like having your own little database. So what I usually do is something like this. Move it over a little bit more. Now you have a handy way of finding all this information. If you right click on your desktop, you can also, right click on your desktop, you can change, too quick. Hit Control A, selects all of the area, and then you can change the color using that little paint bucket. And so now it's this color. And then you might put a title in here, highlight it, hit Merge Cell, and put Office, Contacts, Dashboard. Now the problem is it looks like text is probably in a font that we cannot see. Yes, it is. So now when we have it in the right color font, we make it big and make it bold. And it may be that we want to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so you see right there, we're going to have to move some stuff around, but we can definitely do it. And I do recommend you can really stylize this with simply using some shapes. You can insert some shapes, and that will allow you to build some contrast in here. And I'll just copy these guys after I drag the first one, and then turn it around. Oops. Move it up, and then turn it around. And you quickly can make this look so much better. And it becomes really a dashboard, and I'll show you in a second what you're going to do with it, but I wanted to just illustrate the design aspect of it. So once you have it all set up, you can put it in there, and it starts to look a lot nicer. You can paste it again, and then you can also make it longer and longer on this end. And now you have a nice little dashboard. So how this works is simply put, you select what you want. If you select Alana Jones, that is all Alana Jones's information. It's like magic. And if you don't tell anyone that you know how to do this, you'll look like the smartest person in the world, because you'll be able to remember all the information you put here. Again, you're going to unfilter it by clicking on the clear filter, and there you go. Now when you're in these, if you click on one, you can go to slicer, and one of the things you can do is change the look. So I would recommend using a high visibility one for your main one. And again, it doesn't have to be that main one you use. So if you wanted to know whose spouse was Alana Jones, you click that away. Or if you want to know whose is at box 5070, there you go. Almost everybody, but not quite everybody. So you can have answers to things pretty easily. And so you can do who likes fishing. You can also go in here and multi-select things, so you could select more than one thing. So let me clear these guys out so I can show you how that would work. Clear everything. Okay. So if I clear that, you can do fishing and reading. Golfing and reading. There you go. So who likes golfing and reading? That is the answer to that question. Then make sure you clear it out and unclick that, and it goes away. So that is probably the best thing you can do with pivot table data, I found, for our purposes. There's some manipulation you can do here as well. So if we go back to our pivot table, and then we go to pivot table analyze, You can name the pivot table, so we might name this staff information. And then you can go in here and look at options for show grand toolbars and rows. And let me show you how that's going to look. At the bottom, it does try to count everything. So if you don't want it to count things, click on total filters and get rid of that, and see it went away. If you want it back, go back to total and filters and add them back in, and it's back. You can also get rid of the pivot table fields on the side by clicking Field List. You can find other recommended pivot tables, and you'll see it tries to figure out what ways it can help you. Here's a countdown of name by supervisor. So that's definitely something you want to look at. You can also create a pivot chart. So here we are looking at the spouse. So that's not a really good chart factor, but how about box number? Let's see if maybe that will be something that we could make a chart for. So always remember that you're tied here, so make sure you clear everything out. And we're going to scroll back up, and then we're going to try to make a chart from this. So we're going to click on Pivot Chart in the Pivot Table Analyze, and no, I don't think I like that. Let's see what we can do with this. That's too much information, and you can just click through and see what it is you want to do with data. There's a variety of charts. This data really doesn't lend itself well to a chart, but just for the purposes of seeing what it could do. One of the things we obviously don't need is sum of box number. So again, you can go in here, go to Pivot Table Analyze, Options, and go to Total and Filters and get rid of that because it makes no sense. And then you can see some information. It's not very helpful for this particular thing. So we're going to go to another piece of data that I think will be a little bit more helpful. I wanted to show you how you can fill in information. So originally we only had this information from the table, and then we added everything from box number all the way to the end. To make our life easy, you'll see that there's a pull down menu. So I'm not sure if you all know how to do this, but I thought this would be useful to learn. To add a pull down, you first must make another list. So here's just a list of data that might be in the pull down menu. Once you have your list, all you have to do here is go to data validation. So we're going to go over here to data and to data validation and click on list, click on this little box. Then we go to the tab where this list is, and all you do is highlight what you want the list to be. So in this case, we do want the box numbers. And be careful because it's very persnickety. And then X out of it and hit OK. So then you have that. It fills this one field, but when it's blank, you just drag it all the way down, and then you can go in and select individual ones. So you see here, I could change this one to 5090. Same thing for these. You can change them to different things. So it's an easy way of getting additional data populated. So the other data that I was going to show you is actually our GPA data. So this is our GPA data, and we have all this and the ability to make a pivot table. So again, it's Insert, Pivot Table, New Worksheet. I'm just going to use Name and Comprehensive GPA. Okay. Now we can go to our Pivot Analyze and go to Pivot Chart. Now this is some information that would be good. Now we know what the range of GPAs are, and you edit it just as you would anything else. And there you go, you have a chart. And you can change the chart. It gives you some selections. I like the high contrast charts. You can filter it so you only see some people instead of everybody. So that's interesting. There's also filters in Excel based on different parameters, so investigate those, and as well as value filters. And you can also sort it based on A to Z, and that applies in the data itself. It's going to fix it so that it's sorted A to Z or Z to A. Okay, so there you have your pivot, and then again we're going to go in here and insert slicers, check everything. I wish there was a check everything box, but there is not. All these slicers come up. Again, hit shift and click on each one of them, and you're going to move them to a different place. And I've already done that in the interest of time. So this is the dashboard that I built for GPA, and again we can filter it out. You see we have a lot of data. We just want Amy Tucker. So it's very much dynamic. I'm going to move me away. And then you have the ability to also filter manually, and again filter again. And you can make it bigger just by dragging it. So that's our presentation on pivots and how to get your data empowered from Excel or Google Forms. I hope you've learned a lot, but honestly, practice does make perfect, so if you get stuck and you need help, please contact me. I'm at jennifer.lewis@usm.edu, and I'm glad to help you. For instance, I helped Miss Tammy from the Higher Education Committee, and what we worked on was her budget. It was very much formula driven. There is a lot of formulas that you can use. Click on the Formulas tab to see them arranged by type. I often use the sum and the average, count and count if. That's outside the parameters of this particular presentation, but I'm glad to go over those with anyone that needs that information. Again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day and hope you learned just a little bit about how to empower your data. Email with questions or call me at 601-266-4469. I'm glad to arrange a time to meet with you. Again, I like to share this information because it's a big help to me as an office professional, and I also want to make sure my colleagues are able to take advantage of this. We are tasked with more and more each year as we have more and more things to do and productivity goals, and then pivoting for COVID and things of the like. So having just a little bit more time can be an amazing thing, and I truly enjoy being able to impart this knowledge to other people and have them do the same within their own communities. So again, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this presentation.